Welcome to Uniquely Loved, a celebration of authenticity and divine inspiration. We are encouraged to be our own unique, authentic selves. Join me, Witch Niki, as we discuss spiritual gifts and skills we can develop and enhance, speak with amazing people using their skills in a variety of ways, and explore the different ways to connect to the wonders of the universe. Hello, my loves, and thank you for joining me today. I have a special treat for you. Today, I would like to introduce to you Candy Motzek. She is my mentor, and let me read her blurb. Candy is an author, a podcast host, a business coach for life coaches. Candy helps smart people start successful coaching businesses. She believes that coaching transforms lives and that being a coach is a calling. She helps her clients get unstuck and feel more confidence and clarity so they can play bigger, sign clients, and create more meaningful success. She is a recovering corporate executive and engineer who combines practical strategy and mindset in her calming, unique approach. And I just love her. She has helped me so much just since I started my business. Candy, please welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, Nikki, thank you so much for having me. And God, I've got tears in my eyes. I'm just so touched. I love working with you too. It's been such a wonderful connection. And I just love how spirit sends all the right people, right? That's just the way it's supposed to work. And sometimes it just shows up even easier than you think.
Yes. So can you tell us a little bit more about, exactly what it is that you do?
So I'm a coach and I'm a coach for coaches. And when we were talking at the beginning, we talked about tongue twisters. And I think being a coach for coaches is like the prime tongue twister. What do? I have this thing where I help new coaches start their business. And that's sort of like I don't know how to describe it. It's sort of like that's the pretend mission. And the real mission is that they get to live the life that they want. And sometimes they've taken quite a bit of time coming to that place where they know what their calling is, and coaching is their calling. And so the easiest way for me to be found and for me to connect with them is for them to think that, oh, she's going to help me with my business. And really, it's yes, the business, but more importantly, being more of who you are. And when you are aligned, doing work that's meaningful, in line with your calling, the business happens naturally. And so that's what I do. Yeah.
I know when I started with you, I had a website and I had, hey, yes, I'm going to offer this. I love doing this. I love helping people. How the heck do I run a business? And I thought I had it. It's like I was doing all the research and everything else, and it's just things weren't clicking until I found you and started working with you. And my website has completely changed and has a lot more clarity now for, people to be like, oh, what is this person all about?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that that's really common is we've got this idea that business is complicated. And I think that that's a mistake. And, I remember when we first started working together, you had so much going on your website. And that meant that you had so much going on in your brain,
Mm-hmm.
right? And all of that complexity was getting in the way of you doing the thing,
Mm-hmm.
creating clients, working with people, making money, doing work that you love. And so the more like I'm on this new path of simple and streamlined. And I think that we think that makes it too easy somehow, but simple and streamlined is actually effective and efficient, right? And so water flows downhill. It doesn't try to go all these different places. Water goes in the direction, the easy path. And that's what we can choose to do with our business too.
Mm-hmm. I'm a total overthinker, so I love all the details. And
Yeah.
it's been kind of really hard for me to shift that focus into simple and clear. And it's like, oh, I was putting way too much information into like one article or whatnot. And you help me simplify that and be like, hey, you need to look at it from this perspective. Oops. Oh, okay. I didn't know everybody didn't think that way.
right? Stuff that you think is so normal after all of the personal work and all the growth that you've done. You forgot that your clients are like way back there, close to the starting line, right? And you're like, we're running fast. And they're like, wait a minute, we're walking, right?
For me, it was, I love to understand the process, and not everybody does. It's like, no, I just want the results. Oh, well, okay, that does seem too easy, but okay.
But we'll try.
And you helped me figure that out, and you helped me get over a lot of the barriers that I had for promoting myself and talking about what I do and being comfortable with doing that.
Yeah. And like, look at you now, right? You're working with paying clients. You've got a podcast. Oh my God. Right? Like, do you know how many people think about starting a podcast, myself included, for like 3 years before we get the courage up to do it? And here you are. It's like you had the idea, you heard the message, you listened to the message, and then you just plugged your nose and jumped and you started. It's amazing.
I was so avoidant at first too. And then you're like, oh, come on, it's super easy. Oh, and then of course my guides were like, oh no, this is something you're doing. In fact, here's the name. I don't even know how to do that. You're gonna learn.
Yeah.
You're gonna learn while you swim. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. And they always give you the little life, the life preserver to hang on to too, right? You're just kind of, yeah. So look at that change, right? Like I helped you, but in reality, you listened to the message. I gave you some input, but then you're the one that had the courage to go out and do it. Mm-hmm. And that's a big deal. Like
I needed that.
Your guides could give you all the messages in the world, but nothing is going to happen until you make it real in this world.
Yes, so. Definitely. I had a train of thought and I just went, pew.
Okay.
So what's your favorite thing about what you do?
About what I do?
Yeah.
Mm. So I know that my favorite thing should be watching the, the end result of my clients' growth, watching the progress. But the strangest thing is that my favorite thing is in the moment, is when I'm talking to somebody and there's kind of a space in there and it's just that connection. So it's like a deeper connection where I can really see who they are. And there's like a moment when they see it too. And so there's just that's my favorite, is just in that moment. Those are like, I don't know, it's the best.
When you start seeing them connect the dots and be like, wait a minute, I can do this.
Yeah. And it's not in what they say, it's in, there's this something that happens in their demeanor, like they kind of inhabit it, and I get to witness it. So that's my favorite.
Awesome.
So, not the answer I should tell you, but the real answer. Yeah.
No, that's a great answer. I don't like textbook stuff, so this is perfect.
Right. Good.
I don't think either one of us are textbook type people.
No, it doesn't serve us, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's part of the journey. We get to be forward earlier in the pack.
Now, you brought up podcast. You have a podcast, She Coaches Coaches. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So yeah, I have this podcast, Nikki. It's called She Coaches Coaches. And I know that it's kind of funny that you're asking me that question, because you were a guest in episode 109, which was, it was released on September the 4th, 2022. So whoever is listening to this right now, just know that you can go to episode 109 and hear some of Nikki's story as well. What do I do with my podcast? I talk to really interesting people. I get new perspectives for coaches. I try to bring in good resources. And then I do some of my favorite episodes, which are solo episodes where I write something and then I talk about it. And a lot of the things that I talk about are the things that new coaches are scared of. Like, what if I'm a terrible coach? Or what if I don't know what to say? Or what if nobody wants to work with me? So I just try to make it so that it's a short episode and that it's something that just helps people keep going towards their calling. That's my focus with it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And you have a whole lot of episodes that are available to peruse and listen to and just enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think I'm at about episode 120 now. But every week they just keep going and going and going. And I'm now in the enviable or uncomfortable position where I have too many episodes. And so I have to figure out what to do with that because I have too many ideas. And I think that's part of that creative flow and creative inspiration and being more in touch with my guides is that now I've got too much to say and too many people that I know those conversations would be helpful. So an unexpected problem. So now what? Like, now what do I do? Maybe I have to start releasing them more often. I don't know. I think the more I release, the more ideas will come. So it could be good.
That is a big possibility right there.
Yeah.
I noticed recently that you put on soul as well as a coach with your little signature block, and I absolutely love it because you have it bold and everything. I was like, oh,
yeah, yeah. So I have to tell you a story. I started as a coach in 2014, and I woke up one day and I had this thing about business plus soul. And I have spent the last 8 years trying to figure out how to integrate it. I'm like, and every year or so, it kind of comes back again. And I'm like, but what do I do with that? And then I'm like, forget it. I'm just putting it on my email signature. It's just, that's it. I'm starting. I don't know how it's going to work out, but that's what we're doing. So anyway, that's the thing is like, it's like when the message first came, it was so radical. And I was so corporate and I'm like, I know that that's what I do, but like, it's just weird. And now it's normal, right? So maybe that's my lesson is you waited all that time and now it's mainstream. You should have done it when we first told you, right?
Well, you had to be more confident in embodying that aspect and going from the corporate culture to the more intuitive, which is how you operate anyways, because you build the connection with people and you use your intuition to be like, you know what, they need to hear this right now, so let's do this.
Yeah. And so it's super kind of you to say that, but in fact it was just procrastinating and fear.
It was both.
Yeah. I mean, yes, there's always a lovely kind way of saying it, but I knew what it was. I knew that it was just fear. Yeah. So now it's just there.
Okay, well, it's awesome that it is there.
Thank you.
So you help me in so many different ways, and I feel like a business owner. I feel like a complete coach, well-rounded and able to actually present what I do in a way that will actually resonate with people. And for that, I thank you. And well, for everyone out there, Candy is also one of my very first clients. And again, I thank you for that as well, because it's awesome. And it helped embolden me, and get more confident in what I do and be like, yeah, my own coach believes in me. This is cool.
Yeah. And I think I've shared this before. Like I waited to be your client because I wanted to make sure that I was a paying client. I love all my clients, but I don't necessarily hire all my clients. And so, just so I saw what you do. And I knew that I wanted to have that experience and to have that growth and that you were the right person to do that with. Aww. And so not every coaching relationship is sort of this kind of back and forth. And even now, we're navigating a new way where sometimes I have the coach's hat on and sometimes you have the mentor hat on. So it's been really wonderful. And I've learned a lot. And it's helped me as a person as well as a coach, because those two things are always hand in hand anyway. So, yeah.
Would you feel comfortable in explaining some of the things that you've learned with me?
Sure. Yeah. So a lot of the things are not brand new, but matured and fine-tuned. So for example, I have a much more conscious grounding practice now. I was always pretty grounded, but now I do it consciously. And that just helps me enjoy my life more. It helps me sort of be more present in my life. And I think that nothing but good comes from that. So that's the first thing. And then the second is I create a bubble of protection. And, I did it, but I didn't do it consciously before. And I think that's the big thing, is like to take it so that it's a conscious tool that I use for a specific reason, essentially to create a win-win, right? So, with that, my bubble of protection, it keeps me safe and in integrity. And that allows me to interact more freely with people. Mm-hmm. And then I know that I'm not picking up on other people's stuff and transmitting it, and then also it's more respectful to them too, that they get to have their own life in their own way. So specifically those two things. And then the third thing is I am just so much more in tune with my guides. Again, I kind of sort of was. And I think that that's sort of the way I would describe it, as I was kind of sort of doing things unconsciously, but now it's much more conscious. So, for example, this morning before I officially woke up for the day, I asked my guides for input about what to talk about. And, so I consciously put that question out there. Mm-hmm. And then it just helps. It makes the conversations more interesting and more aligned, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And it's really cool how we can pick up on different synchronicities or signs and be like, hey, you should be looking over here for inspiration. Or, an article will pop up on the feed and be like, oh, that's a good idea.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And, so a perfect example is I just came back from Mexico. And because you and I are working together, we had talked about it. And one of the messages that you had given me was, you're going to be a place where it's different. And remember that you get to choose your experience, and that this is it's up to you to choose, and you get to choose. And so to be conscious of it, so every day, working with you, I was reminded, go for a walk every day. And that helped, again, that, reinforces that staying grounded and staying present and being aware of how I'm feeling. Mm-hmm. And that just helped everything in my trip, really. So that's like the real world spin-off of doing the spiritual work and the spiritual learning. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I found that choosing consciously goes along with a lot of the stuff that you teach with, hey, the thought downloads and the journaling and everything's like, hey, write this and shift it just a little bit so you're consciously choosing to think in a certain way. And yeah, I don't know, in my mind, they just kind of go hand in hand with, everything that we're working on together on both sides.
Yeah, I agree. Because awareness is sort of the key for everything, right? And so, you help me grow my spiritual awareness and being more in tune with my guides and my higher self. And then I teach more of the being aware of your thoughts and your perspectives and how you're feeling. Mm-hmm. So it's like it takes it more down to like the body level, the 3D level of life. But I think that it's like part of a continuum somehow, right?
Well, it's like the more we become self-aware of our thoughts and our feelings and how they affect us and in turn affect others, we can actually become more aware of our intuition and that little voice that says, hey, keep going. Or, hey, maybe you should try this.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. And I had another thought too. Oh, yeah. So part of this about awareness is this thing about creating. And, with people who are not necessarily as spiritually aware, I'll say, let's play the game where you actually create exactly what you have. And so in the area of working with new coaches, let's play the game that you actually are 100% creating the clients that you receive. And the thing about playing the game is important because then we hold it a little bit lightly and we're more curious and more experimental about it. And then it's also like, it's not like you're 100% responsible for everything in your life, bad and good, like a, a real downer, but it's true. You are creating your life. And it sometimes isn't in that necessarily the outward things, like, do you have the fancy car or the house or whatever? It's more in your experience, like you're creating your experience of your life. And I think that that's that awareness, that's that spiritual conscious awareness piece too, is that you really are creating your experience here, right?
That's been my experience, and everything a lot about what I've been getting taught by my guides as well.
Yeah.
And it's like they would drive it home every time you'd have me journal or be like, hey, do this exercise, but hey, come on, do it.
Yeah, right. But and so I agree. I think that it, like, you're doing it from a much more spiritual perspective than mine, which is much more practical and kind of strategic. But all of that is part of the human experience, right?
Yes, definitely.
And and it's almost like that's the language. Some people need it in this language. Some people need it in the more spiritual language. It's whatever language is their, sort of their current habit is helpful. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So we've been working on you more consciously choosing to be more, listen to more of your intuition and consciously connecting with your guides. You'd already been doing that because, downloads, inspiration, impulses to go ground and whatnot are all little, nudges in the right direction. So you are already very well in tune. And I don't think you realize just the magnitude of how in tune you actually were. And when we, helped expand that and started helping you consciously choose that, you started getting more skills, more gifts.
Yeah. Just super fun. And sometimes it's like I'm the last one to the party. That's what's so funny. So one of the things that you and I talk about in our sessions is this, I call it radiating from the high heart, especially when I'm in a coaching session with a client, and it's radiating love and acceptance and peace, and self-acceptance, but also acceptance of who they really are, which is magnificent, right? And so I'm wearing a necklace, which, like I said, sometimes I'm the last to the party, sometimes I'm the last to understand. So this necklace has a teeny little heart on it. It's gold. And I think the heart is about the size of maybe a quarter of an inch. So it's pretty tiny. And it's a magical necklace. It's the funniest thing. There's times that I don't wear it because it won't go on. It will be like, I try to make the clasp work and it will not, but it has started working again. When it's not working, it sits on the counter in my bathroom close to where I put my makeup on in the morning, and it just sits there. And then sometimes this necklace is knotted. And I'll look at it, and you know what it's like when you have a fine chain and it gets a knot in it. You're like, oh, yep. It's going to be hard to get that undone. It's going to get a kink, and then it's going to break and all that kind of stuff. So this necklace, sometimes it won't go on. And then sometimes it gets knots. And then I'll leave it for a couple of days and I'll pick it up and the knot's gone. And then it's time to put it on again. But how I got this necklace, I think it was a gift from my dad, and he passed about, I'll say about 16 years ago now, but he gave it to me about a year ago. And so this is part of the accepting your gifts and accepting that you already are quite in tune. So about a year ago, I walked into my bathroom and I have a mirror that hangs on the wall, and this gold chain was hanging on it. And as I said, my dad's been gone for about 15, 16 years now, and this happened a year ago. And I thought, oh, my husband gave me this gift. What a great thing. It's not the kind of gift he would normally give me. And then I went and thanked him for it. And he goes, not me. And then, and I'm like, really? A shiny gold chain, the only thing hanging in my bathroom. And when I walked in there, it was dark, and I turned the light on, and the light shone off of this chain. And so it's just kind of funny, because I knew that it was a gift, and I knew that it was from my dad. But now it's this weird little magical necklace that knots and unknots, won't go on, will go on. But it's that, like, how does that happen? Right? Like, how does that happen? That it changes so much depending on what it needs, what I need from it.
Question. First of all, that's a seriously awesome story.
Right? Isn't that cool?
Yeah. It's a seriously cool gift. When it knots or when it won't go on, do you notice any difference within you? And maybe how you interact with others, perhaps?
Oh, maybe. What I did notice is that I was really super disappointed the first time it happened. And then I continued wearing it. And while I was wearing it, the knot resolved itself. And I was like, oh, well, that's interesting. So now when it knots, I don't really worry about it. I'm like, oh, it's knotted. It'll be fine. It'll work itself out. So maybe there's that thing about trust. Like, instead of me having to work it, that it'll take care of itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that there's little maybe kinks and knots within you that are working themselves out. And this is kind of a representation of that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm sure. There's always kinks and knots in me. And in fact, I think it's got a knot in it now. And it didn't this morning when I put it on. Nope, it's good. Strange. The strange necklace. Yeah.
That is a really good representation then of, things that are going on either within or around you as well.
Yeah. And so the accepting that and I have such a problem with that word, accepting, ACC is what I'm trying to say, accepting that it is a gift, and to see it as a gift, and to allow it to come in. And I think that there's something there too, like just in learning how to receive. So often we give, but we forget that if nobody's receiving, there's no giving either. There's no flow. And so that's a big lesson for me too.
Yeah. And seeing ourselves as worthy of receiving gifts and blessings and whatnot as well.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
That is really cool, because a lot of people don't get something tangible from an ancestor or spirit. It's more, more like a spiritual gift, a remembering of, skills we've had in past lives or passed down. It's like, oh, suddenly I can hear my guides, or I can hear music, or I can feel energy. What is this?
Yeah. And it's, and so you use that suddenly I can, but a lot of what I noticed, and maybe a lot of your clients will notice the same, is that they always did, but they didn't make the connection. Like, I always wake up with a weird song. And it's only since working with you that I'm like, oh, it's a message. I get it. You're like, it's not just a random song, right? And I bet that happens. I mean, people who listen to this episode, maybe that's the thing that they get, is they take it away and they go, oh, you mean that song that wakes me up in the middle of the morning? Like that? That's actually a message. Oh, how cool is that? Right?
Yeah, it's
from their guides.
Is that going to be the theme for the day? Whatever that song is?
Yeah. Yeah. Right? It's kind of like a message, right? So the song thing is always fun.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's the theme song for the day. I don't have one for today because for some reason we had a blank.
Yeah, I had the blank too. My guides were like, "Hey, you're going to figure this out while you're doing it."
Yeah. And it's been no problem, right?
Right.
It's been fine. It's been just fine.
It's like the planner is being forced to act intuitively.
Yeah, but you're an intuitive mentor, so it kind of makes sense, right?
Right. I still like to have a little bit of a plan, because remember, I said I'm an overthinker.
Yeah.
And that is a habit they're trying to get me to break.
Well, and I think it's because our brain thinks that it's smart, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why the overthinking is like our brain thinks, oh, I can figure this out. Our brain thinks that somehow it's the highest power, but it's really not. And so it's doing its thing in there. And then the rest of you is like, nope, you'll figure it out.
Yep. And then, of course, my heart and my nervous system is just like, can we calm down now? Or are we good?
Yeah. Yeah. So there's that whole thing about trust, right?
Yep.
Like, yeah. Yeah. I'm not so good with that thing about trust, but I'm learning for sure.
I am too. And it's a process. It always is. Because every time we get to one little stage, it's like, okay, you graduated. Now on to the next level. Like, oh, wait, I have to jump off this? What?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and I think that that's one of the other good things about working with you is that it helps me to remember what I've learned. Right. So
Mhm.
lots of times it's really easy to have a little piece of growth, right? But then you think that the new normal was the way it's always been. But then because you and I get together and we meet and then we go on to the next level, I don't forget the growth. And
Mhm.
that is really, it's more fun. It's more heartening. It's sort of like it kind of makes the whole process more interesting too, right?
Well, when I first started with you, you did this really cool accountability project. And in it, you're like, hey, celebrate your successes. What are you going to celebrate today? Even if it's a
Yeah.
little tiny thing. And it's
Yeah.
like, Spirit wants us to do that all the time. Like every little
Yes.
bit of growth is worth celebrating because we are worth celebrating.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
And that's something
That's
that you
cool.
taught me that it never, it's like, yeah, I've heard it and everything, but until you did that, it's just like, huh, the light bulb just went off over my head
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got an idea. I know what to do. Yeah.
And it's just, my guides are always like, all right, now you did this. What are you going to do to celebrate about it? How are you going to
Oh,
at least
great.
enjoy?
Yeah. Like, and think about how much more enjoyable every aspect of your life is
Hmm.
just with that alone. It's huge, right?
Oh, yeah.
I'm still learning. I kind of celebrate like at least maybe 30% of the time, but right. Like, but it is definitely more than it used to be. Like maybe it only used to be 10% and now it's 30%. So it's like it's a growing thing with me.
Hmm. And every little bit of progress is progress because it all adds
Yeah.
up.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I love that.
And being
Mm.
able to bring fun and playfulness into our lives it's transformative.
Well, and it's spirit.
Hmm.
People think that spirit is all like, I don't know, that guy that sits on the throne in heaven, with the pointy finger, but it's really not. It's really these silly little birds that hop around outside my she shed. Like right now, I've got these guys. They're called black-eyed juncos. They're little. The top half of them is black, and the bottom is gray, and they hop around eating bugs and doing all this stuff. That's real spirit. They're having a great time. They chirp at each other and do all kinds of stuff.
Hmm.
It's not the pointy guy on the throne, you know?
That pointy guy on the throne is us because we are our own worst critics.
Yes. Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
universe, spirit, our guides, they want us to enjoy the moments because that's what makes up our lives.
Yeah. Right. And isn't that interesting that like there's a simplicity to that?
Hmm.
And we spend so much time complicating the heck out of it.
We do.
Adding a knot. So there's my chain, right? Adding a knot, right? When in fact it's just the real lesson is to keep it as simple as possible. Not minimize it, not make it like I don't know what the word is, like make it juvenile,
Hmm.
but there's a maturity and simplicity
Hmm.
that we don't often credit.
Right.
Yeah.
And enjoying our life, enjoying even the moments, or at least finding moments in the day to enjoy, make it that much better. And I don't know, in my mind, it helps us get through the more stressful times
Yeah. Yeah.
because we can
There's
go
always
back
the
and think,
stressful times,
oh
you
yeah,
know.
and we can go back and look at, but no, I did have a good moment.
Don't you remember there was one, you know?
Even if it's just a hug.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
And I don't know if you felt it yet, but my guides, I tell them all the time, I accept hugs, and I actually feel them often.
I haven't done that. I have to do that. I'll try that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's my lesson for the day. Niki, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this conversation, and it's been such a pleasure working with you. I really appreciate being your guest.
Thank you for being a guest. This has been awesome.
Appreciate being your guest. It was wonderful.
It was awesome.
Yeah. And also, like, I literally, like, I'm like, I asked my guides and they gave me nothing. So the fact that yours gave you nothing meant this was the lesson. It's like, it'll work out.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's been getting signs of, it's like, hey, you need to be, just grateful, trusting, accepting, and living in or embodying all of that, because so much awesomeness is coming to us.
Yeah.
And just, be open and receptive. And
what a great message.
Like a trust fall moment.
Yeah. That's a really great message, that there's so much wonderful. It's not just coming to us. It's like, it's always coming. Mm-hmm. And we just don't necessarily even notice, or I don't notice. Right.
Yeah. This has been awesome. Thank you for being a guest. Thank you, loved ones, for joining us today as we explore intuitive coaching with Candy Motzek. To find out more about Candy, go to her website, stepintosuccessnow.com. You can also check out her podcast, She Coaches Coaches, on your favorite podcast station. Be sure to subscribe to this channel as well. More adventure awaits. Always remember, you are accepted, you are valid, you are loved.